Hi there, perhaps you've heard of flipped learning, but it's basically where the content delivery gets moved to out of class time, and what that does is free up time in class for the active learning type activities. And it's been something I've been really interested in since I've started teaching. And I teach mathematics, and it turns out there's actually a lot of literature on studies of flipped undergraduate math courses. And the interesting thing about these studies is that a lot of them do show significant performance gains for the students in the flipped classes versus the traditional classes. But at the same time, a lot of the studies show little to no gains or no difference between the flipped and the traditional classes. And these studies all have some basic commonalities. I mean, they're all using instructional videos for the out of class content delivery, and they're all using active learning exercises in class. But the question is, why are some of them showing significant learning outcome gains, whereas others are not? And it turns out there's actually been a study that's been really helpful for me on that question. There was a meta-analysis of 22 flipped undergraduate math courses, and if you look into the article, it appears that the single largest factor of why some classes showed improved performance gains versus other studies was the incorporation of a quiz at the start of each lesson, which sounds like kind of a crazy thing to do, at least when I first heard of it. But it turns out it has a significant impact. And to show this, let me illustrate this a little bit. Let me show you this, some of these studies. So if you look at this plot here, what you'll see on the x-axis is a couple different studies. These are all undergraduate calculus, integral calculus or multivariate calculus, which is what I teach. And on the y-axis, this shows the relative performance gain of students in the flipped versus the traditional classes. So what you'll notice is that the studies that are shown in blue here show little to no performance gain, while the studies shown in red show very significant performance gain. And this is on the order of, say, a half to a full letter grade. So this is very statistically significant differences. And it turns out that all of the studies that show these big differences in the red incorporated that method of having quizzes at the start of each lesson. So seems like this might be a promising idea, so it's something I'd like to try and incorporate into Calc 3 in the spring. And so my goal of the study is to see if incorporating these quizzes at the start of each lesson results in an increased performance gain for the students in the experimental sections. I'd also like to look at student perceptions of this method, and then maybe even see if there's any correlation between student attitudes and how they performed. So the basic methodology for this is that in the spring we're planning to have the control group, so to speak, is planning to have 6 sort of medium stakes quizzes throughout the semester. But what I'd like to do is take those out and replace those with the 34 start of lesson quizzes at the beginning of all the lessons where new content is delivered. So just to take you through sort of a basic flow of the control versus experimental group, they're going to have some commonalities. I mean, in both groups they're going to watch a pre-lesson video, and they're going to go into class and they're going to have some active learning activities, and then they're going to go back and do some homework. The major difference is in that the control group, they're going to incorporate some expository teaching in there, whereas in the experimental group, the plan is to have the quiz at the start of each lesson and also provide a little feedback on the quiz. And also, as part of the active learning exercises, talk a little bit about some of the homework problems, because that just to sort of make up for the increased preparation that's going to be expected out of the students. As for how to assess this, we'll look at the student performance on the high stakes graded reviews and the final, also giving a survey out for the perceptions, and see if we can kind of match those up a little bit too, to see any correlations between them. And as a hypothesis, what I expect to see is that the experimental sections will show an increased learning outcomes, increased scores. And I expect to see this perhaps because of the increased retrieval practice, or because of the increased incentive to prepare before each class, because the quizzes will have points assigned to them. And as far as student perceptions, I do expect there to be negative perceptions, probably more so from students with less self-regulated learning skills, because there's going to be more challenges for them, where students with higher self-regulated learning skills that come to prepared will probably appreciate more the additional opportunity for feedback on the quizzes. So that's what I expect, but of course who knows, and that's why we do studies in the first place, so we'll see how it goes. I'm Matthew Johnson. I'm with the Department of Educational Innovation at the United States Air Force Academy. Thanks for watching.